Hey addicts, welcome back. We are here for TMNT yet again. I did a lot of prep work for this volume review. I baked and ate a full pizza, so I am fueled up and ready to go. So volume 4 of the IDW collection featuring Donatello on the front here. A really nice cover, and obviously it has that nice accented color, purple, that he is known for. And then as well as a really cool action still of Donatello on the back here. Now this volume includes issues 29 to 37 of the ongoing series, as well as the Utrom Empire miniseries and the 2014 annual. Now, this is a shorter volume. I don't know if you can really tell. I didn't bring the second one up here to really compare it, but it is about maybe 2/3 of the size of the previous volumes before it, but in no way do I think knocks it for what is actually encompassing of this volume. I do have a lot of nice things to say about it, but we'll get on to more of that in the rating section. Let's talk a little bit about the volume itself. So the volume contents can be broken down to basically 4 sections. One is kind of the first half of the ongoing series issues with the Turtles at the countryside, which the countryside is where April's parents' place is located, and that's where they're specifically going to seek refuge and recuperation. And then you have the second part of this volume, which is the Utrom Empire miniseries, which is 3 issues long, and then you get the Turtles back in New York for the events of the 2014 annual. Don't ask me where the 2013 annual went. I thought the whole reason of calling it an annual is it happens every year, but I guess not. So we have the 2012 and then jumping to the 2014. Just so you are aware, you didn't miss anything. And then the fourth part of this section of the volume would be the back half of the ongoing series issues with the Turtles trying to get ready and formulate a plan on what their approach is going to be against Shredder and even the bigger looming threat of the Technodrome. Now, I'm going to cut back way, or I should say a lot of what I was going to say for the contents of the volume. There is just so much stuff that Eastman and his other writers compact into this story that I honestly could talk about it for longer than an hour if I was just ranting here in front of a camera. So I'm not going to do that, but I am going to give kind of my thoughts on it. So I think probably the biggest praise I have about this volume as a whole, just like the whole vibe of, you know, how they're formulating the stories, how certain characters are acting, kind of in that regard, right, is that we are getting much better handling of the Turtles and their allies. So when I mean allies, I just slope, you know, Splinter, Casey, April, the lot in there, right? Angel, if you want to throw her in there, Harold. And that specifically, the little interactions we get. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take a step back here because it's really hard for me to, I guess, articulate exactly what I mean by this, but a perfect example of it would be that, you know, a lot of times in the previous volumes, we got, you know, the Turtles either showing their personality or maybe their stance on, you know, what approach to take or what they were feeling in that moment. We got a lot of those moments either in the midst of battle when they were in the middle of an arc, or when things are happening all around them and, you know, they're still on the path, they're still doing something, but they're just, you know, saying a line here or there on their route to doing that thing. In this volume, I feel like there is much more of almost a episodic feel to it, whereas, and maybe I should clarify that a little bit. So, for instance, the story that is, I guess, split into the countryside, there's about 3, maybe 4 issues that are set in that place, and it does feel almost like a 3 or 4 part episode of a TV show where it's a much more smaller scaled focus. There is still action. There is still moments that are going to contribute to the overall progression of the plot. But there's just a lot, since it does have a smaller scale of the conflict that's going on, there's a much greater emphasis on the characters talking and, what their dialogue necessarily, what their dialogue means in reflection to each of them, right? So that's something that I greatly appreciated, and I think it was getting to the point where if it wasn't showcased in this volume, it was going to start stressing on the overall enjoyment of the show, on the overall enjoyment of the series. So that's a huge plus in my book that they were able to do in this one. There's a lot of great little moments, especially at the beginning part of the volume, where they do a great job of having interactions between basically every matchup you can think of. So there's like Donnie and Mikey, there's Donnie and Raph, there's Donnie and Casey, there's Donnie and Leo, and then the vice versa with all the other characters, right? And they're all very important, or they reflect back on some previous things. So I think that's really cool to see. I don't know if I mentioned it because it's already elapsed me on how many takes I've done of this, but we do get Aopex at the beginning of this volume as well. Seeing her come in as more of an ally to the Turtles, or at least holding the white flag of peace, which I thought, honestly, I was surprised that it was this soon, and I was kind of worried that it was going to take away from some of the other focus between the other characters, but I think it was actually, instead of taking away focus, it was actually a welcome addition. It was one that, again, I didn't really feel the full impact of Aopex's part in the early part of the volume until probably the very end, where I was like, you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm kind of liking where it's going because in the moment, it does seem like, I don't know. I'm still not that interested in Aopex, but they're setting Aopex up to have a connection again with Kitsune, that because of the interactions she's having with the Turtles in the beginning part of this volume, I think is going to expand the impact she's going to have later on with Kitsune, which, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but moving on, we do get Leo's full recovery by the end of this time at the countryside, which is really nice. It leads to a lot of great moments, like I said, with Donnie, with Splinter, with Raph, and I think, it not only gets Leo back to where he was, but I think it's a great way of getting him even stronger than what he was before. And they do highlight that later on in the volume when they get to the back half of the ongoing series issues, which I really dig a lot. Now, we also get a little things here and there with April and Casey. We get, a little bit more of their relationship blooming. I think by this point, the Turtles all know, or at least most of the Turtles know, there's a great moment between Donnie and April and Raph and Casey at the van. It's all in one scene. It's kind of like Casey's talking to Raph as he's sitting in the van, and then April, before she gets in the van, is talking to Donnie. And each of them just adds so much to, flushing out those characters and making them feel even more real, right, than all of the previous knowledge that we have of them already does, right? So that was a really nice one. But and more focus to the overall plot and what they're contributing, I'm liking where it's going. You do get April introducing Casey to her parents, and this, I guess, letting us see April realizing what happened to Stockton, because her parents are able to fill them in on the gaps. And also we get a connection with Stockton again through April's dad. And there's also a really cool Easter egg with April's mom being a former reporter. So that's a nice nod to the 80s cartoon, I guess. But anyway, there is also a I guess you could say it, a payoff of the ooze that April got from her micro series one shot, and that connecting back to her parents, as well as just opening up her parents to be new side characters that they're going to be able to call upon or interact in some way with. So that's also, again, another way to add some interesting picking points for this this kind of downtime-ish bundle of issues. You also get the main conflict of these few handful of issues with Koya, which is again, don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a mutated eagle or bird or whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's a hawk or an owl, but really cool because he is tracking them, and you get the foot assassins showing up as well, and that leads to an explosive, fight in a barn, as well as, maybe some information that April's parents didn't know before. So that's really nice. And then obviously it ends with some characters going their separate ways, and the Turtles ultimately going back to New York. Now, the Utrom Empire, it's the one that, again, I did like it, but the way that they structured it in the volume, it does, the best way to describe it is you're reading it, right? You're reading the first, 2 or 3 issues of the ongoing series, and you're like, oh man, I'm really enjoying this. I'm really liking all the character stuff. And then you flip the page to go into the next issue, and you see Utrom Empire, and you're like, oh, why? I wanna go back into the ongoing, but I was like, it's gonna mess up the flow of things if I don't read this. So, you read the Utrom Empire, and I did like the Utrom Empire a lot, as we'll talk about here in a second, but it was just one of those things that they put it in there where you're just like, damn it. If I was reading this issue by issue, I would totally throw a fit, probably. But that's just how it goes sometimes. But with that being said, though, the Utrom Empire does shed some light on what's happening on Burnout Island. I think the present day stuff is a bit more intriguing than some more flashback stuff we get with Krang. All of it's still good. But, and I think by the end of it, I do love the new additions it adds to Krang's character, but we already did get a little bit of this beforehand, so it is kind of a rehash, but it's just enough new stuff that makes me still enjoy it a lot. On the present day stuff, you do have the Fugitoid, the first time we're seeing the Fugitoid after being taken by Krang in the last volume, and him kind of feeling the despair of, essentially in his mind failed at getting justice for his family. So, we've seen him try to kill himself, but then Krang scientists just putting him back together and then putting him back on work for the Technodrome, which you think about it is a very depressing side of TMNT if you look at the Fugitoid in his life. But I do love this because as this is going on, there is a storm approaching Burnout Island, and this is when Stockman sees his opportunity to execute the plan that he has to take back his own, life that he had before Krang took him to this island. So you see Stockman initiating this plan where he's going to try to take out the rest of the Utroms to try to derail the motivation or what's driving Krang to destroy the Earth and re-terraform it. And then you get Stockman wanting to team up with Honeycutt, who, by the way, doesn't know that Honeycutt was Chet, so that's another nice little thing that we can do later on, or at least the Fugitoid can exploit later on. But this leads to, Honeycutt trying to decide what the best approach is, but I love the kind of plan that he's able to set in motion because of the certain circumstances that he sees him in. It's a really nice way that ends up all unfolding. But in the midst of this going on, you do have Krang trying to save his people in the present day. And with that, he's kind of knocked out, or kind of, presumably put in a state where his life is in danger, and how you see events from his past harken back to that. And just to, again, fleshing out Krang to not be necessarily evil incarnate. He's just somebody that has a very twisted devotion to his race and to his people. And just seeing, how he puts it in his mind's two wrongs will make a right, I guess, in that scenario. But we do see that Krang's not necessarily the most evil Utrom in existence. I probably would have had to go to his father. But again, not necessarily new information. We kind of saw this relationship peaked at when we got the micro series one shot of Krang, and I think we even had a couple of issues maybe in the Neutronium arc. So really do dig that for the most part. Now, after we get done with the Utrom arc, we get into probably the coolest thing. Well, I'm going to refrain from that. Not the coolest thing showcased in the volume, because I think that probably would go to the ongoing issues this round. But probably my second favorite thing out of this volume is the 2014 annual. 2014 annual is, again, kind of one of those offshoot issues, because it's not going to, at least from what I'm speculating, it's not going to tie into the next volume, or maybe even the volume after that. I guess it just really depends on how much material we go through in the next one. But we do get this setup of possibly something that I just can't wait to see. But we get introduced to a character that I was not expecting to see at all, or this soon, to be honest with you. But we get to see Renette and the Time Scepter. And we get to see her jumping in right when the Turtles are trying to, or I guess I should say Donnie and Michelangelo are trying to play a prank on Raphael. Raphael and Leo end up coming back, but right before they're able to do the prank, Renette shows up, goes through in the whole spiel. If you know, like, Renette or the Time Scepter or Simultaneous or any of those characters centered around TMNT, it's very, I guess, nostalgic or pretty what would you call it? No need for explaining, right? But we get that, and her trying to recruit the Turtles in saving, I guess, all of these people that are forced to play fight to the death in this arena-like thing. And right off the bat, I was like, this makes me feel like it's a mixture between the Battle Nexus and like that one arc that they did in the cartoon with the Turtles being on the Triceraton homeworld, put in the arena. And it is exactly that, which I love. You do see Zog actually in this 2014 annual, which I didn't mention, but you actually see Zog set up before that in the Utrom Empire miniseries. So that's really cool to see that connective tissue there. As well as in the, I just remembered, they do, there is a nice little confirmation that it's almost like blink and you miss it piece in the Utrom Empire with confirmation that Krang was the Utrom that Kitsune and Shredder saw and had dealings with in Secret History of the Foot Clan. But getting off topic there, the 2014 annual, not much to say other than, you do get some of those more iconic, again, the iconic character lineup of the Turtles with Renette, Simultaneous, Baltazar, and, it's just a nice little kind of one-off piece with them being in the arena. But it kind of ends with the people that are running this learning the error of their ways and going to turn it into an Olympics-type sport that they're going to deem or like rename the Battle Nexus. So I can't wait to see if they're gonna do a Battle Nexus story arc later. That'd be really cool if they do. Maybe it was just an Easter egg for this one, but I would be really happy to see that later on. But, you also got Renette introduced, so we can go back to doing some time shenanigans later on. Maybe they'll use that to tie into The Last Ronin. That would be kind of cool, which we got a little bit of news of that later, but that leads to the very end of this volume with the Turtles getting back to, or excuse me, being back in New York, but getting their plans together. Now, we get a lot of things going on in these bundle of issues in the last. We have Casey finally confronting and, for somewhat of their conflict, putting to rest his conflict between Casey and Hun. You have Angel stepping up a little bit and maybe becoming nobody. And then you also have Shredder versus Krang, which is so freaking cool, and it's a great way to end the volume. But to kind of go back, the Turtles are trying to figure out what exactly the best approach is and which baddie to focus on first. They have the Shredder that is the immediate threat, but they also have the Technodrome, which, again, I'm skipping over important details. This is kind of one of the reasons why it's hard for me to do a fast video, because I forget important things. But we do have the Honeycutt, because of the way he was able to smoothly work into the good graces of Krang. He was able to send out a distress signal that gives the turtles a way to teleport to Burnout Island to stop Krang and his plot to unleash the Technodrome on the world. So these first bundle, or I guess the first part of these issues, kind of split off into two ways. You have Leo and Splinter trying to formulate the battle strategies and, you know, kind of having that conflict of opinions of strategy on which way to go about things, as well as talking about the mother aspect, which I believe their mother was named as Shin, right? So you have that cool dynamic that has been played apart since the beginning of this volume, and them facing the Rat King, which was such a good way. I saw it, I called it as soon as I saw it at the end of the volume before they actually get into the Rat King, which that's a whole nother thing, trying to get into the possibilities and the really cool way that they're doing the Rat King. But anyway, but with them you also get Mikey and Raphael going to Hob to try to enlist his help into things, and then you get Donnie, April, and Angel going to Harold about getting his help with building the teleporter that Honeycutt sent them the plans of. Which it's just all packed, and even in the last issue, you get the actual meetup with Shredder and Krang that is so freaking good, and you know, it's one of those that I think just because the way they have made the, what would you call it, the ultimate plans that Krang and Shredder want to do, it's pretty obvious that they are not going to gel together, and I think they execute that perfectly in a way that you know, lets you be not only excited for the future conflict those characters are going to have with the Turtles, but also what beef is going to happen between those evil factions as well. And I think they do it in a way that it doesn't make one of them feel like less of a threat. If anything, I think it's scary because, you know, we've had a little bit more interactions with the Turtles against Shredder and how much they've had trouble with Shredder, and just seeing that Krang is able to at least hold his own, or at least fight him pretty well, that is scary for the Turtles' future. But I do like how they kind of, even though they kind of leave on like, it was kind of a draw, Shredder still having the upper hand there. So with Shredder having the upper hand a little bit more, it leads me to kind of have a sigh of relief. That's like, okay, so Shredder's going to be at least the big bad for the foreseeable future. That's good, okay? Except if we get into the Rat King, Kitsune possibilities there, which the speculation there is wild. I can't even fit that in this video. But yeah, it was a great volume. I loved it a lot. There wasn't too much that I hated. Actually, there was really only one thing specifically, and you want to know what it was? It was that awful, disgusting haircut they gave April. Oh, like, what are you, like, I don't understand. It was like the, like one of the artists was like, long hair is boring. I want to draw something a bit more horrific. When you have mutants to draw, like, I guess that's not enough. You know, I kid a little bit, or I exaggerate. That haircut's still not great, but you know, it's not a big deal. I guess that's just to show you how little is actually bad about the volume. So overall, really did enjoy it. I'm going to be picking up the 5th volume. Actually, I already have the 5th volume. What am I smoking? But like I've iterated before, this volume just has everything that I was kind of wanting in the next installment, and kind of beefing up those smaller aspects, or those aspects that I thought were needing a boost. So really been digging it. I hope that the way that they divide the story in this volume kind of goes forward, because I think this is kind of the best tackle of that. So for that reason, I would be giving this an FFA. It was really close to a pure ecstasy, I'll admit, but there was just a couple things, you know, like I said, with the Utrom Empire, or just, you know, obviously the material of the arc isn't like explosive, even though it was very good. So we'll see. I'm sure it will get a pure ecstasy at least one of these days. Real quick, the only thing else I'll just say is that we do have the Last Ronin issue 1. I actually picked that the week that it came out, and I've just been so busy I haven't been able to do it. But we will be back for that next time, and then have volume 5 after that. So hopefully with the Last Ronin we'll be able to keep up with it better than the first issue, but we are going to be covering that because I am really curious to see you know, if that lives up to its expectation. But anyway guys, that'll conclude this, and I'll see you guys next time. Later, addicts.